Look, as UFC fans, I think we've all experienced our favorite fighter one time being on top, and then all of a sudden the world has crumbled around them, and now they are either considered trash or just purely irrelevant. What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be counting down my top 5 worst UFC fall-offs. So someone that started with a lot of hype in their career and all of a sudden just fell down within a very short period of time. If you guys are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. We do MMA content, YouTube, boxing, whatever you guys want to talk about. I have a big video on KSI coming up breaking down his boxing technique, so probably come out maybe tomorrow or sometime this week. Anyway, guys, I think I've explained this video enough, so let's get into it. Alright, starting off at number 5, it's Khamzat Chimaev. Now, a lot of people might be like, hey, Khamzat Chimaev is still undefeated. There's still a lot of hype around him. He could possibly fight Colby Covington next. And yes, honestly, there's a chance that he could become a 2-division world champion. Khamzat Chimaev is very high skilled, but in terms of fan approval, this guy's stock has crashed. I mean, remember in 2020, the guy that was just taking all these fights, so much hype around him. And then even at the end of 2021, coming off that Li Jingliang victory, and even the Gilbert Burns fight, which was an absolute war, people gained respect. Then it all came down crashing in September of 2022. Khamzat Chimaev was set to face off against Nate Diaz in a pretty one-sided matchup, and all he had to do was weigh in at 170, and the guy was probably going to demolish Nate Diaz in the first round, destroying the hearts of MMA fans around the world. But it turns out Khamzat couldn't even do that right, because he wound up weighing 178 pounds.
178.5, the official weight for Khamzat Chimaev.
Totally missing the mark, and at the weigh-in seemingly not really to care, kind of laughing it off. If there's anything that MMA fans hate the most, it's missing weight, and then not even caring about it is insane. So then Khamzat demolishes Kevin Holland on a short replacement, and his post-fight interview doesn't seem to be sorry at all for missing weight, making a lot of excuses talking about the doctors, which I think a lot of MMA fans didn't really believe.
You came into this fight far overweight. What was that all about?
I don't care about that, bro. I killed that guy.
And maybe if this was it, maybe Khamzat's hype would eventually get back, but Khamzat is still not fought during this period. And not only that, the guy continues to talk and call out people that already have fights booked, like Alex Pereira, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, fights that, you know, probably not going to happen. And MMA fans are getting really sick of this guy, and his hype has crashed big time. Alright, coming in at number 4 might be a controversial one, but I'm going with Conor McGregor. Now, I think a lot of people might be expecting me to put him at number 1, but I don't think we could write off Conor just yet. Khamzat and Conor are two guys that I believe can win again in the UFC. I think that Conor's fight against Michael Chandler is very winnable for him, so I think it's very possible for him to get a very good win there and get a lot of hype back. So that's why these two aren't exactly on the top. But where do we begin with Conor McGregor? I mean, of course, he was just so sensational early on in his career, knocking out everybody he touched, being close to the pound-for-pound #1 and best fighter, knocked out Jose Aldo, being the first person to beat him in 10 years. Conor was also the first person, of course, to get 2 titles in 2 different weight divisions simultaneously. Conor had achieved so much, even boxing Floyd Mayweather. And because of the boxing, a lot of people attribute that to the fall-off that would eventually happen. You see, Conor would eventually return against Khabib, and while in hindsight, he definitely did the best out of anybody else who's fought Khabib, at least during his championship reign. Conor would lose in the 4th round via submission, and also have tons of legal problems along the way. Have a return fight against Cowboy Cerrone where he would knock him out in the 1st round, and then a year later lose to Dustin Poirier for the first time by knockout. Then about 6 months later in the trilogy, he would break his leg, which would give him an over 2-year layoff, and now the guy seems to be pumped with steroids, not in the USADA program, and talking shit about a lot of fighters when he hasn't won a fight in a long time. Now, I will say in Conor's defense, if you look at his losses to Khabib and Dustin, those are guys at the top. Conor is losing to the best of the competition, but nonetheless, it is definitely a fall off from where he was years ago. Alright, number 3, Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt was a breath of fresh air to the bantamweight division. At one point, an undefeated prospect climbing his way through the rank, and eventually fighting one of the greatest bantamweights of all time, Dominic Cruz. Now, at this point, Dominic Cruz had seemed to be on another level than everybody else. He did have a close fight with TJ Dillashaw, but other than that, he seemed pretty dominant. So a lot of people did not expect Cody Garbrandt to go in there at such a young age and show off his skills against Dominic Cruz, and at certain points of the fight made it even look easy, hurting Dominic Cruz in so many moments in that fight. And then Cody Garbrandt became the bantamweight champion. Now, a lot of people at this point thought maybe that Cody Garbrandt would have a long career and was just getting started, but directly after this, Cody Garbrandt fought his rival TJ Dillashaw. If you guys want to hear more about the whole TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt situation, I'll put the video on the screen. But the two basically had a rivalry, and Cody Garbrandt would fight TJ Dillashaw and lose to him, then suffering his only pro loss. He would once again lose to TJ in a rematch, and then lose against Pedro Munoz next. Now, since then, Cody's tried to go to flyweight and lost there. He also had a really good knockout in 2020 against Rafael Assunção, and is coming off of a win. However, it just seems like that Cody's chin has been touched too many times, and a lot of people are questioning how good can Cody Garbrandt be? How far could he get now? Those are all questions that we're just gonna have to find out. Alright, number 2, I'm going with Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal in 2019 was definitely the fighter of the year, knocking out Darren Till in England, to having the fastest knockout in UFC history, ending the year in MSG fighting the legend Nate Diaz. 3 wins in 2019. It seemed like this older UFC veteran had finally caught a break. But following the next year, Jorge Masvidal would accept a late replacement fight against Kamaru Usman, where Kamaru would dominate him all 5 rounds, with Jorge debatably winning the first. Now, this didn't affect his stock so much. People wanted to see him versus Colby, but after Kamaru Usman would beat Gilbert Burns in his next fight, he would call out a rematch for Jorge Masvidal. Now, a lot of people did not expect what was going to happen next to happen. You see, Usman or Jorge actually did the rematch, and to everybody's surprise, Kamaru Usman, the dominant wrestler, was able to be the first person to knock out Jorge Masvidal cold. Yes, he did have a TKO loss early in his career, but it was nothing like this. Jorge Masvidal was out on the canvas. A little less than a year later, Jorge Masvidal would accept a bout with Colby Covington, where he would also lose 50-45, making him now on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, Jorge is set to return next month against Gilbert Burns, so we're gonna see how that fight goes, but as of right now, it doesn't look like he's going to win that fight, making his 2019 rise nothing more than a distant memory. Alright, before I reveal my top pick, here's just an honorable mention, Paddy Pimblett. Now, I think a lot of you guys know my opinion on Paddy Pimblett. That is my most popular video on the channel. If you guys want to check it out, I'm going to put it on the screen, so feel free to click it there. But anyway, let's get to my number 1 pick. Alright, number 1, I think a lot of people could expect this, El Cucuy Tony Ferguson, at one point riding a 12-fight win streak, and being called by many the only person to beat Khabib. You know, him and Khabib were supposed to fight about 5 times, and the last time gave us MMA fans hope. Will this fight actually happen in Brooklyn? Well, it didn't because of the coronavirus. COVID-19 shut down all countries, and Khabib did not want to leave his country of Russia. Because of this, the UFC returned with no crowd and made an interim title fight between Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. Now, this fight would be the fight that would forever change Tony Ferguson, because Justin Gaethje, arguably over 5 rounds, battered Tony Ferguson, giving Tony the most damage he ever received in his career. Tony would lose his next 2 fights by decision. Well, I think we all know what happened. Tony Ferguson gets knocked out cold by Michael Chandler with a front kick, and then only 4 months later or so returns, fighting Nate Diaz on a day's notice and losing by submission in the 4th round. At one point, Tony Ferguson was considered one of the greatest lightweights of all time, and now his fall off makes us question everything. Alright guys, but let me know, was there any UFC fall off that you guys thought should have made the list that didn't? Let me know in the comment section below. There was a lot of options. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys for all the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.